There was no vlog last week because nothing I talk about aired last week. Lately they've been doing, I shouldn't exactly say lately because, lately implies more than once a year, but the last few years they haven't been doing episodes right on New Year's, as usually that's the lowest rating time because everybody's busy in Japan with other festive holiday stuff, seeing families, seeing stuff. It's just no one airs anything. So I guess with the ratings those weeks, they finally decided to just skip it. Do it a skip day. Less episodes for the episode count and all that. But here's my concern of how they're doing that. The end of year, the last episode of December, first episode of January period, where they usually do this, it's usually a clip show episode. Now, that doesn't exactly work for Kamen Rider anymore because it's early in their series that there's not much to recap. But Sentai's usually had them. And this is why I'm even bringing this up tangentially, is that this week, week after they skipped, it's a clip show episode again. So, now they did this last year with Ninja right before the holiday, and then they took a week off, but why are you still doing the clip show episode? I feel like that's a concern because they did a clip show episode already this series related to the team's characters, and yeah, it's more to catch Mario up on everything because he saw them last episode transform and have their beast forms and all that, so they're trying to inform him so he doesn't go nuts and get himself hurt as Jyuohger because he's made his own costume. So yes, there is story stuff progressing with the show, unlike Ninja's clip show episode last year. But it feels unnecessary because the reason they do the clip show episodes right at this point in the show, because it's going to be a dead ratings thing anyways. Most Japanese TV ends up something in that range of knowing this is going to be few people watching anyways. So why still do the clip show episode? I'm honestly confused on this. It's tradition, yes, but the reason for having the tradition no longer exists since you're not airing an episode on that day. I'm going in circles with this, as I don't really, like I said, I don't get why they're doing that. It's obsolete if they're just going to not air an episode that weekend. I'm doing it again. A few other things of note from the episode for the whole story arc thing is Bud goes to Larry to discuss his encounter with Azald from 2 weeks ago and showing him one of Azald's cubes. So we're with how they're building that up and being addressing it next week, we're probably going to get some closure on that really soon. That's just seeding the story arc. But in a way that it still feels like you don't really miss anything for not watching the episode, since it's admittedly nice character time with everyone to see the interactions, and even the villains get in on it a bit to find their own confusion for the eventual build-up and realization of everything, but it kind of feels unnecessary. Man, it's definitely not the worst Jyuohger episode. That was definitely the Halloween one from a couple of months back, but it's definitely more skippable than the fun of having the Jyuohger try and figure out Bangray's scheme with the duplicates, so it's a showcasing of them being smart versus, trying to explain everything, console the man that they're supporting. Okay, yeah, it does kind of work. Just I'm saying it feels really weak for the show that has had a massive improvement in story quality versus the last couple of years. So yeah, not much to comment on them this week. Excite was a lot better than the last few times I've talked about the show. I still find a bit of irritants, but it's mainly due to character interplay issues, like with Kagami's disinterest to even actually giving good advice to Emu's moved on to a surgical internship at the hospital as opposed to pediatric internship, which he had been going through thus far. So yeah, Kagami is now the resident attending surgeon to Emu, who's now moved into the surgical department in his internship. And it's like, I want to say Dr. Cox, but even Dr. Cox was not this much of an asshole because he actually cared about his patients. It's like total detachment level, so it's not comparable, and that detachment is forming a barrier against which any attempt to mentorship can form, because he's not mentoring, he's just being an asshole. He's not even... His advice doesn't even break through his asshole and allishness, because he never tries to put things in terms that Emu would accept. It's like he's intentionally not distancing, putting it in ways that Emu can't contemplate through his worldview because it's so against it. And I'm struggling for the words I want to use here, because he says that it's Emu is still stuck on Kiria's death, understandably, because, you know, died in your arms and all that, and Kagami is trying to say distance yourself from your patients because death is an inevitability, and yeah, it is, but he puts it in such horrible terms for that, and with so disinterest, like it didn't even affect him at all, or he is moved on past it so much faster. And you would think that someone who experienced the exact same thing with his girlfriend would be more understanding about all of this. Really. I mean, this is going back to the issues with Kagami's backstory and how it's not informing his character, it's running against his character, if you get what I'm saying. It's like, there's this they now have this common empathy thing, and it's not factoring into how they relate to each other at all, or how the senior doctor, who is so skilled and awarded for his not awarded applauded for, that's not the word I'm looking for, revered, that's the word I was looking for, revered for his surgical and medical skills, would have an ounce of empathy in him. In fact, the Dr. Cox comparison many of us have made for the whole X-Side being a superhero version of Scrubs comparison is not making him the Dr. Cox anymore. It's just making him an asshole. Hell, he's closer to being the Kelso, except surgeon instead of administrator. So I don't think that the Scrubs comparison is definitely breaking down. I haven't even brought it up for a while now because there have been so few commonality parallels at this point. And it's obvious because of Emu's, I don't want to say inability, but it's taking him longer than others would because of his compassion, that when they have the next Bugster manifest from a teacher, a surgical teacher at a medical university, manifest from him, he's less focused on the patient, like as is part of his character, but when Don shows up in the battlegrounds, he instantly zeroes in on him, and it's understandable. It makes sense tactically to occupy Ganem, especially in his zombie form, with the most powerful Gashots-based level form they have, and yet Kagami is berating him for not focusing on the Bugster. It's like, it's a complete sudden reversal in positions. for him to say, don't get connected to your patients, don't care about anybody, don't XXX, and then he's then he goes and berates him for doing just that. It's like, the hell? I mean, yeah, there's this context to focusing on the operation, but, occupying the Kamen Rider that has repeatedly gotten in your way of stopping Bugster attacks, yeah, Emu's emotionally compromised, so he's not really thinking that, but that's still what he's doing, even subconsciously, by occupying him, so why are you not actually dealing with the Bugster and completing the operation? You hate when Emu interferes in your battles. This is occupying him from your battle with the Bugster. Why are you complaining about this? There is no winning with this show. It's like, it's kind of like how I get stuck in the how I got stuck in the circular logic loop from a few minutes ago. It's like, you're cycling your own story points only to ridicule Emu when it makes no sense to ridicule Emu. That has been a recurring problem for a while now with me. It goes to a bit before the Dragon Knight Hunter incident, which really got me angry, but it has to make sense for your story when you do this. And it doesn't make sense story-wise to have this. In fact, it's just filling dead air when, you could be showing him being more reactive instead of just emotionally distraught. It's like going on instinct, and that would actually tie more into this episode where we're determining that whatever's been done to Emu that allows him to use the gamer driver, it's not quite the same thing that has happened with Kujo, Kirya, and Taiga that allows them to use the gamer drivers. The compatibility surgery that exposed them to a strain of the Bugsters. Where was I with this? So yeah, Genom versus Level 5 Exide. Goddamn, pants to be darkened. I think thus far that Genom is the best designed Exide suit, simply due to the contrast. I said as much last time. I'm not thrilled about the Bugster buckle driver, mainly because it's just suddenly exploded in cost, and I don't think I'll be able to buy any of the Exide items because of how expensive they got, from already starting out as costing more than the last few years. So, I'm really impressed with how they're dealing with Genom now and making him immortal. Like, making him impossible to kill, even by the strongest Ga shots they have, by even the tactics they can think of, and not because he is intrinsically stronger than any of them, but all of their attacks can't kill him. They can't shut him down. They can't de-transform him because his rider gauge is broken and it doesn't register the damage. I mean, it registers the damage. We're shown that in the episode a couple of times where they actually do knock him down, seemingly KO him, but he just recovers. And Dan is gloating that he's created the first immortal rider system. Well, okay, second, once you factor in Kota's god powers from after he ate the golden fruit in how that affected his powers as Gain, but usually we don't have the immortality thing showing up Kamen Rider powers, usually because it makes characters uninteresting if you remove death as a defeat condition. That was part of the problem with Ghost, in that we were expecting him to... all of his deaths were terrible. Past the first one. I should clarify, past the first one. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah. Genom is definitely the proper way to show this immortality and menace and maliciousness, especially since he keeps interfering with these battles, and again, why I kind of am against Kagami and how he's treating Emu right now. But when they back out, it is admittedly Kagami that saves him, so he's not as presented as cold-hearted. It's just that, his words are conflicting with the reality of what's going on around him. And I don't so much have an issue with Kagami's reasoning for confiscating Emu's gashots after this, because Emu is a danger to himself right now with how reckless he's being. So I like that responsibility. I just don't like his stated reasoning, and that is definitely a concern for someone that he's now finding more and more he needs to rely upon, and is important to obviously solving the whole Bugster mess, which has been made public by the health ministry. Now, on one hand, I'm amazed that everybody took this at face value for this. Hinata telling them that there's a virus that allows a mutagenic digital entity to evolve, take over your body, and kill you. Because, it's a monster. You wouldn't expect this, but then you remember this is Toei continuity. They've established by now that, shared universe for everything. They know monster attacks are real. So, it's kind of like, it seems ridiculous, but it works in the setting because all of these other series with monster attacks are recognized as existing. Where's I going with this? Next bit, we have a challenger for that is directing Taiga to fight Emu for reasons not explained yet. The character is a girl. I forget her name. I am terrible with names. I'll probably catch it more when they more properly introduce her and her grudge against Emu. I'm betting it has something to do with her gaming skills. He beat her or something. We don't know yet. I am curious, but I'm wondering if this is just going to be a red herring, possibly tied into Emu's ability to his dissociative identity disorder that's becoming a bigger plot point. Parad, though, I'm wondering what's up with him. Parad's the remaining Bugster, that ally of Don's, and what is he after? I'm just wondering that because he gave Emu a Gashot that he was supposed to place in the Bugster that manifested from the Patient of the Week, and why would he do that? Why would he challenge Emu as more of a gamer and to abandon the doctoral thing, his desire to be a doctor? Does it tie into, again, what's going on with Emu? Is it possible, as I postulated before, that Emu is patient zero for the Bugster virus, going back years? Is that why he's suddenly obsessed with him and all that? It's concerning because this might not add up at its end. We don't know where it's headed yet. But anyways, power up for Exide, and I think what really helped this episode is they properly paced it. They paced it out. They gave us the first battle after some decent, okay, not so decent. I had some irritants with it. Character stuff. Then they had the short battle. They had a good reason for backing out of that short battle. Then they went back to more character stuff and not so much focusing on getting the new item, as has been the problem the last few times, but keeping it back on trying to move the story forward into its next phase. And thus, while they crowded out not the full form introduction, but they properly split it into two parts, so they can introduce it quickly and then have more time with it next time while they're continuing the story points from here. So next week might feel a bit rushed, but it's definitely a better utilization of resources than they have been so far, where it's pretty much just been point, get item, get item, get item, fight, and leave character stuff for later, after we've killed one of the characters off and had a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff for that he got involved. I should say behind the scenes because that has a different connotation. Long-running B-plot stuff happened with him that is now lost for everybody. Exide level 10 and level 20. I gotta admit, a level 10 form based on the level 1 forms, that's a bit odd. I'm not too big on the color scheme, but with the neon colors, it doesn't look off-putting to have that exact shade of red and orange and blue. I think it more reminds me of the colors of... Actually, that's exactly what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the portal gun colors. You know, or that kind of shade of orange and blue connecting. I think they're a bit more neon than intended. Maybe it's just the metallic sparkliness of the paint they used for it. But, you know, it's another game reference this show has been doing. Admittedly, Portal's not exactly a retro game like everything else, but I feel it ends up synergistically working, especially with the heterochromia of the eyes to match how Genom, which started out as a recolored Exide, has similarly obtained heterochromia after getting the dangerous zombie got shot. That it's ridiculously powerful in that ridiculously, like, deformed suit is... I don't get it. Well, I do get why they did it. It's just that it still looks really odd to see those. And it did have a decent battle with Genom. That wasn't a full curb stomp, even though it was like wailing on him due to Genom's immortality, essentially making all of that attacking moot. And then Genom pulls the switch again for accessing level 20, where he splits into two people. And this is the best scene in the episode. Not because of Exide in both halves kicking ass, but because everyone is baffled by it, and it's just like their lack of reaction and then sudden expressions of befuddlement just... It completely sells that this is insane, this should be laughed at, and yet you don't know where they're going with this, and even though you know it's a game changer. This is obviously not the first time we've had writers who can make multiples of themselves. Wizard is definitely the best example. Double split himself in two when Decade hit him with the final form ride thing to do the two colors in one single rider. In fact, this can kind of be seen as a evolution to the concept of that scene back with Double, especially since they had the whole 2-in-1 rider thing. Now we have two riders from one person. Yes. Oh, and I can't forget O's with Gotta Kiribati. But it seems like this is the first time they really intended that kind of multi-form system. I shouldn't say multi-form. Multi-body system from the beginning. Wizard, with his dragon formation, was just more taking advantage of the 4 different elemental suits they were already making for a quick and easy power-up for the super form, whereas this is the intermediary super form, and now he's got 2 bodies to wail on people with, and it's supposed to be stronger than Exide level 10 on his own, at least we would assume it to be. And hey, he finally has someone that will cooperate with him, except it's his split personality that acts nothing like him. Oh boy, that'll be fun to address, and I wonder if they should add a psychologist to their team for addressing this. Maybe resolving his other self thing will be a part to Emu's final form. Too soon to say on that. But what we know now, at least what we're more certain of, is his split personality is Bugster based, because the Goshots Parad gave him, as revealed by Don in earlier exposition about it, would kill the normal human with the mass infection of Bugsters. And we see Emu being shrouded in a purple, shadowy mist, which kind of mimics what Graphite was doing with the prototype Goshawks to, in fact, amass a lot of people with the Bugster virus before, so I don't know, it seems to not connect visually, since thus far all of the Bugster virus's emergences and, their infection of other people has been as, orange CGI, I don't want to say double helixes, because that's what they're shown binding to, but it doesn't make sense for me to show this infection as a black miasma floating off of him when that's not what they've been depicting the virus as appearing as before. If you get my gist. It's visually, it lets you know this is a bad thing, but also doesn't match up with their prior presentation of these viruses very much. So yeah, that's all I can really say about XI level 10 and 20, because they're going to be continuing that next week. But overall, since they paced it out better, it does feel like a far better presentation for the episode, since they're also not hitting the same notes over and over again like was Ghost's problem last year. They're progressing the story, even though they're calling back to other things that have been brought up before. It's with a different motive this time. Though I do have more material this week because Garo returned with Zero Dragon Blood, the second Garo spin-off starring Rei Fujita as Rei Suzumura, and since Zero Black Blood got me really into the series with how well it was presented, and then followed up with Makai no Hana, which I really liked, I've been looking forward to this. In fact, I have begun preparing a grind in Final Fantasy XIV for Garo armor. I took advantage of their free trial to actually set that up. More details to come when we know more about the event, when it's released in Japan in the next 5 days. Possibly might be going live in America around the same time. I really want to set up something for that, even if it's just me streaming the game solo. Where was I going with this? Zero's first episode. Alice has descended into Wonderland. That's pretty much the joke for the episode. Everybody can go home. Because it's introducing the new interim character. I actually need to pull up the Wikipedia page so I can... No, wait, it's right here. Alice Hiromi. And she encounters a horror that manifests as a white rabbit. She is through the looking glass into a world she never knew existed. I need to remember these for when I eventually get around to reviewing this show. But, yeah, that's pretty much the entire episode explained in 2 sentences. Because, like a lot of Garo episodes, it's more about setting up the horror, presenting how they are a monstrous entity, than the relevant Makai Knight coming in to sort it out. And it's decent, it's slow, it's less focused on giving us the mythos than, say, the original episode of Garo was, but it's much in the same vein. It's reintroducing the setting, a new relevant character, and bringing back in someone new to be the new protagonist. And I don't know if this is going to run for 12 or 24 or whatever number of episodes. I don't remember if we've gotten that detail about the show yet, but it definitely feels like they're setting up for a longer run than Ray had last time with the whole 6-episode event thing. Where was I going with this? It's just that it feels more like an slow, atmospheric episode to give us the horror environment again. Horror as in the genre, not horror as in the monsters. God, I need to find a way to accent the difference between those two. I especially like the scene where all of the White Rabbit horror's minions, which are lesser horrors, um, kill a first victim, and they're all giddy over what parts of the body they'll get. That's disturbing, and yet it's hilarious at the same time because it's like they're talking about a it's not it's there's a mental disconnect with it where you think they're talking about actual food and not killing a person by eating them. So it's like you're encountering a normal everyday environment, but it's wrong. And that's definitely one of the things I really enjoy about Garo. It's wrongness in normality, and that's really a not even I know it's an obvious thing to it, but it's so obvious that it's easy to miss when discussing it. And how many videos on the series have I made at this point? And I keep not even mentioning that at all with everything. I guess there wasn't much in Makai Senki that went that way for me to even really talk about much. But that helped sell the episode for me, even though there's really, like I said, not much to it. Alice going through the looking glass into a horrific version of Wonderland. Rei Fujita, still killing us with Rei Suzumura. I loved his wife cracks here when he found himself surrounded by a mass of horrors and pretty much just being a more jovial, carefree self than we got much of the time in the prior to Garo series. So, I'm wondering if Alice is going to become his equivalent to Kaoru. Like, is he going to be getting into a relationship with Alice, or is it just going to be a passing encounter while he continues his lone wolf streak? I watched this Day Zero lead-in Rei Fujita film for the series and how it's something that is going to affect his character in the long term, so I'm wondering if this is going to lead, as I think it is, to a romantic moment or just another unpleasant tragedy by its end. Especially since Alice is looking for this dragon egg thing that is obviously a Makai artifact and is going to tie into the larger plot with Tomohisa Yuge's character, Adele, since he is playing the Dragon Knight. Tomohisa Yuge being Goro from Ryuki, Mishima from Kabuto, the restaurant owners whose name starts with a B from Gaim. We've seen him a few times, and I'm looking forward to seeing him here. First episode didn't actually feature much of the supporting cast or antagonists yet. I know Mary Matsuyama and Yuria Haga are in the series again. Well, not Yuria Haga, she's new to Garo, but, reunion for 5 stuff. Hopefully we'll be seeing them in next week's episode, or not long after, to give us an idea of where this plot is going. I'm curious on how Alice knows about this dragon egg artifact that is going to be a thrust of the series. But we know that Rei is going to have to go and find Alice again because Alice took a picture of her, and with the whole Makai Knights and Makai Senate and Makai Priest thing having to stay secret to protect everybody, I think he's going to be pressured into following up with her to remove evidence of their existence, though Rei doesn't seem to be that concerned about it. Fight scenes for Garo and its spin-offs are usually really good, and this I think they're leaning a bit too much on the special effects, because without the special effects to carry them here, they seem kind of middling. I mean, there was a few good action sequences with Rey dual-wielding his swords, but there's this one annoying one where it's focused on him, they green screen the room turning with him just flailing about his limbs so they line up with, of course, other CGI horrors, and the idea is, of course, he is performing parkour to literally walk around the room, including the ceiling, to attack all of these horrors and kill them all at the same time. And the effect doesn't work because it's not allowing us to see him performing this reality-defying effect. We're focused on him while everything else around him blurs, so we're only seeing what he's doing and not the full action. I don't think that was a very well handled effect in comparison to all the other stunt performances the series is known for. Now, Zero versus the actual CGI horror, the big white rabbit at the end, that seemed a bit more cohesive, but I feel that the effects this time are a bit more obvious than they have been in other series. It's like, it's more obvious to tell it's CGI. They're not covering as much they're not succeeding in camouflaging it as well without, doing what every Hollywood movie does these days and just make it impossible to see so you can't distinguish the special effect from what's happening in reality. I hate it when movies do that. I seriously can't. Like, the 2014 Godzilla movie, I couldn't see anything that was going on in any scene set at night because the lighting was so terrible for all of the scenes. Just to cover how badly rendered their Godzilla was. Ugh. So it's like the other extreme. So you're more obvious to know that the monster isn't really there with how they rendered it and how they rendered the other models don't quite sync up. They have a few issues with that with Rey as well, with their interposition of him with obvious green screening against a real location. Like, there's a moment where he's standing on top of a chimney and rooftop, and you can kind of tell from the lighting differences that they didn't really film him there in person. So, I don't know if this is just an issue of how they rendered out all of these effects, because it's definitely orchestrated well, but it's not selling the illusion. And I keep looking at the screen because I just saw the episode was directed by Keita Amemiya himself. So, still a good episode, but problem issues with the overall presentation of everything. As usual, when Garo starts running again, I'm going to be expanding the vlogs to include it. So these are going to get longer for a while. Definitely, hopefully I won't be talking as emptily as I was today. Sorry, a bit distracted. I got no other updates for the current time being. I know Power Rangers Ninja Steel is premiering soon. I know some other movies are making the rounds. I know some other releases are making the rounds. Don't really care that much about them at the moment. I've got other stuff I need to be working on. So I will see you all next week then.